Hi guys. So today's video, we're going to take a look at braided line, okay? Because most of you beginners out there use braid for the wrong reason. Now I'm going to get into that in a minute, but first off, I would like to talk about the characteristics and the principal uses for braided line. Now, as we all know, braid is nothing like the polymer lines, your monofilament, your fluorocarbons, your copolymer lines, okay? It's a totally different kettle of fish, pardon me. How braid is made, it is synthetic fibers that are bound together to create strands, or what they call in the business carriers. And these strands or carriers are then wrapped around each other to create the actual fishing line. Now, the basic braid usually consists of 3 carriers. That's 3 strands wrapped around one another. And it can go all the way up to 16 strands, maybe even more. But when you're up in that league for braid, you're fishing for the really big guys. So it's not something that the average angler that watches this channel is going to want. So don't go running out looking for 15, 16 twist braided line, because it doesn't break. So obviously, more the twist, the thicker and stronger the braided line is. And how you tell what you're getting is simply look at the package. It will tell you. It'll have ×7, ×4, ×5. That is the number of twists or carriers that is used to make that particular line. Okay? All right. Now, what are the principal characteristics of braid? Well, obviously the first one is the diameter to strength ratio. It is incredibly strong line with a very thin diameter, and this is what makes it very popular with anglers. All right, you don't have to buy great big reels to accommodate the diameter of monofilament of fluorocarbon. You can get away with using the smaller reels. For example, 25-pound test braid has a diameter very similar to that of 10 or 11-pound test monofilament. So if you're using 25-pound test braid, you don't have to go out and buy a bigger reel. You can simply put it on a reel that's rated for 10 to 12-pound tests, and you're fine. And you also get a lot more of the line, because it's thin diameter on the reel, than you would if you were using a polymer line. Okay, so its strength to its diameter is a very highly attractive thing about it. Now, the other characteristic is, of course, it has no stretch like the polymer lines, right? So it's not a very forgiving line. This is why beginners should not use, this is one of the reasons why beginners should not use the braided line until they have some experience with fishing. But it is to the advantage of the angler not to have stretch, because when you don't have stretch with a fishing line, you don't have memory. That means, it's not coming off the spool piggy-tailed, right? It just comes off the spool. And that can be very advantageous in certain fishing applications. It's also incredibly sensitive. And this is another benefit of braid. Because of its sensitivity, you feel every nip and butt and bump on this line. It just telegraphs up the line, down the fishing rod to the fishing rod handle, and you feel everything. This allows the angler to kind of get a leg up on getting a decent hook set. All right, and when you do a good hook set on braid, it's a solid hook set. But as I said before, it is not forgiving, which means, unlike the polymer lines, where if you miss the first time, you can probably have another jerk at it, and you more than likely will catch the fish in the mouth, because the line has stretched and the hook or lure hasn't been pulled out of the fish's mouth. With braid, you don't get that. You either hook it or you don't hook it. So if you don't get it the first time, you've got to bring your lure back in and cast again, and hopefully you get it the second time. But when you do get it, you'll feel it, and it will be a very solid hook set with braid, okay? So great hook set, but there's no forgiveness using braid. So we got sensitivity, we have the no memory, We have the strength to diameter ratio, and it floats. Yes, it floats on top of the water. And again, this is beneficial in one of the principal uses of braid, having it float. In order to get it to sink, that's when you put on the fluorocarbon leaders to get the tip to sink down. But otherwise, it just sits on top of the water. All right, so there's the characteristics of braid that make it very attractive. So where would you use braid? Well, let's see. Because of the strength to diameter ratio and the fact that you don't have to use great big reels, and you can get a lot on your, say Series 3000 spinning reel, you can use it for deep water fishing, and it's very popular to be used in deep water fishing. I'm talking about going for the whitefish and the Lakers and stuff like that. This is where braid comes into play, because you don't have to get, bigger reels. You can get a lot more on the reel, and it's and the sensitivity is also good for deep water fishing, because you can't always see what goes on down there, but you can certainly feel it when you've got braid. So very good for deep water fishing. All right. Another area that it's really popular in, because it floats, is your surface lures. You want your lures on the surface, not being dragged down under the surface. And because it floats, hey, it's great for poppers and walkers and skippers and things like that. If you're into surface fishing, you want to use braid. The other area is its strength. If you're, it's ideal to use in very heavily weeded areas, because it just cuts through the weeds. Unlike the polymers, they could stretch and break. Braid, like a knife going through hot butter. Okay, so it's great for surface lures, surface fishing. It's great for deep water fishing, because you can get more of it on your reel, and it's super strong and sensitive. And because of the strength, you can use it in heavy vegetation in waters. You can get it through those weeds. All right, so there's 3 areas that it's primarily used for. Now, I said in the beginning of this video that most of you beginners don't know how to use braid, and you don't. One of the biggest things that customers used to say to me when I was an outfitter, and I used to get them all outfitted up, the new guys looking for their first fishing adventure, and they come in and they say, "Oh, I got to have braid." And I'd ask them, "Why do you need braid?" Now, I know what you want is your decision. You're paying for it. But why do you want braid when you're just going out a little bit of bass fishing and you're just starting out? And the answer always was the same. Well, there was 2 answers, actually. There was one, because the line won't break and I won't lose my fish. Okay. The other was because my buddy uses braid, and he says you shouldn't use anything else. Okay. Those aren't reasons to use braid. Really, braid is a premium line, and it does require some expertise to use it the right way. Now, braid will, because of its strength, break your equipment long before it breaks. And believe me, I've seen some serious damage over the years, and even in my own equipment as well, what braid can do. It can snap the tip of your fishing rod, all right? It can also damage your line guides. It can rip the inserts out completely, or it can scar them and pit them very badly to the point where they have to be replaced. It can also literally slice through your reels if you're using cheaper reels. It can damage the rotor blades. And another thing it can do, if it gets up under the spool cap and gets onto the pinion there, that metal thing, it can literally pull the pinion out of its mount. And if you've got any plastic or aluminum in your reels, it will cut through it. Braid is a dangerous thing to use. Matter of fact, if you get it wrapped around your hand when you're fighting a surging fish, you try to grab the line, it can cut right down to the bone. It's pretty tough stuff. And something else about braid. These things here are no good. and nor are line clippers or nail clippers. What you need is something that's rated to cut braid. So you'll need something like this multi-tool I've got here. This does a couple of things, but what it has on it is, if you can see, there is a blade for cutting line, and it is braid rated, meaning you can cut braid with this, and you want to cut it smoothly because you don't want it fraying, because once it starts to fray it can come unraveled. So you need to do it properly. So yes, braid doesn't cut very well. So if you need to cut it in an emergency, good luck. You may not be able to do it unless you have the right equipment. It will literally tear your equipment up. Now, this theory of I want to use braid because I don't want my line to break and I don't want to lose my fish. Guys, listen, to you beginners out there. There's nothing wrong with monofilament and learning on monofilament. You got fresh line, you've got nothing to worry about. I've caught big fish on 6 and 4 pound test monofilament. Most of the time when fish break off a line, it's usually the fault of the angler because you don't know how to handle it, or your line is too old, you haven't switched it out. It's not because monofilament doesn't work. It does work, and it works very well if you know what you're doing. And that's the whole idea, is to learn to fish first before you go to something like braided line. And then again, you only want to use it for certain applications as well. I would rather cut my line or snap it than to break my equipment because, I might lose the fish. You can always gear up and go back out again, right? And I'd rather save my equipment than, break it because I want to use braid. And also, don't be putting braid on cheap combos. 'Tis too much plastic and aluminum in cheap combos. And any outfitter worth their salt will advise you not to do it because you'll just wreck everything. Okay? Now, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that's what it is with braid. But braid is a damn good fishing line. It's not cheap. And it lasts for a very long time. It will discolor because they're dyed by the manufacturer. They come in different colors. And it will discolor. It'll look a little shabby, but the tensile strength of the line will still be there and you can still use it. It doesn't disintegrate like the polymer lines, okay? So these are just a few little things that you need to keep in mind if you want to use braid. Give it time, all right? Then go to the braid. All right, this is Sharon. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Tight lines.